My fellow female activists, hello, hello. Cathy here, your wellness coach, and today we are in our wellness playlist. We are talking about our mental fitness, and the title is How Loud is Your Judge? So, for anyone new here, hi, hello. Please subscribe and like. And we always start our wellness playlist with what we call positive quotient repetitions. And it's like meditating, but definitely has the same effect in the fact that we want to center ourselves. Okay, we want to connect our body with our mind and make sure that we are in tune, okay, with our internal self. So feel free to be laying down in a quiet place, or you can sit up, stand up, lay down. Um, Heck, if you're listening to this and you're on a walk or something, that's fine too. If you choose to close your eyes, make sure it's safe. And here we go. So positive quotient repetitions or PQ reps. If you feel safe, feel free to close your eyes and go ahead and again, no matter what posture you have, feel free to have a tall spine. Okay. And go ahead and take two fingertips and then rub them together with such intention that you can feel your fingertip bridges. Just be attentive. What do you feel? Can you even maybe feel your fingerprint? What sensations are you feeling? Now go ahead and bring your fingertips of each hand together and basically go into prayer with your hand. And go ahead and rub your fingertips, all of them, with each other with such intention that you can feel those fingertip ridges. What extra sensations are you feeling now? Feel free to draw your fingertips down the whole palm. You ticklish? Do you feel the friction? Go ahead now, and wherever your feet are, hopefully they can drop to a surface. And regardless if you have shoes or not, feel free to plant your four corners of your feet onto that surface. Feel what type of energy comes up from that surface. Can you feel the muscles in your upper ankles trying to steady yourself so that your feet, again, all four corners are nice and steady and planted? Can you lift all 10 toes, even if you have shoes on? Spread the toes, spread the toes. And then go ahead and keep them spread as they push back down. What has that changed with the four corners of your feet? All those sensations have a role to play in centering. Now feel your seat. If you're laying down, that's okay. And if you're standing, that's okay too. But how does your seat, i.e., your bottom, feel? Whether it's sitting or standing, keeping it upright, or even if it's laying down, if it's in the lay down mode, it's still holding your body, right? It's all connected. With that, go ahead and open your eyes by blinking. And that was the PQ repetition. So PQ reps. They feel really awesome. Alrighty, so we are back. And again, we are talking about how loud is your judge? So in mental fitness, okay, mental fitness has three components. And you will learn about this if I partner with you and your organization and teach you all about mental fitness. And mental fitness has three components. The first component is the saboteur, even understanding that you have saboteurs. All of us have saboteurs. And the key here is you're honing, okay, the muscle that even tells you, oh, I hear the saboteur. Most people will live their whole lives and not understand that they have a judge. And there's 9 other unruly saboteurs that go along with that judge, that they collectively create those sabotaging type, uh, you know, thoughts that are basically our subconscious. Okay. So as we grow, okay, from toddler, right, into teens, we don't have the same filters that we then accumulate as we get older. Okay. So what we what happens is, as you know, toddlers through our late teens, is that we don't have the filters necessary to cipher in what type of information we collect. Everything comes into our brain. And so those saboteurs are created to help us deal with all of the information coming towards us and to protect us. The difficulty comes when, as adults, those same saboteurs are trying to keep us safe. In reality, we now know how to filter, and those saboteurs are just taxing our subconscious. And because they're in our subconscious, we don't hear them. So the title, again, of this video is How Loud is Your Judge? So your saboteurs, again, there's one main judge, and it's made up of 9 different saboteurs. Most people don't hear those saboteurs at all. It's just this repetitive pattern, and it's in our subconscious and it's running, so we don't notice it at all, but it's there. And you can sometimes hear it, but in most cases, no, it's just automatic, and your brain is using it, whether you want it to or not. So the first part, okay, the one of 3 muscles you want to learn to flex to get stronger in mental fitness is how to even recognize that you have saboteurs, right? How loud is your judge? You can think of it actually of how you have the devil and the angel, right, on your shoulders. You can think of the devil as your saboteurs, okay? And then you can think the angel as your sage responses. And what's funny and quite interesting is that there's 10 total saboteurs, right? It only takes five sage powers to turn that saboteur energy around. So again, the first core muscle to mental fitness is even recognizing you have your saboteurs. So when you, one, notice that you have your saboteur talking to you. The second core muscle to flex or to make stronger in mental fitness is to then stop and recognize that you need to then turn on your sage. Again, there's only 5 sage powers are necessary to overcome any of the 10 saboteurs. Pretty cool, right? It just goes to show you that as humans, we have a bias towards negativity. Why? Because it kept us alive. All right. When we were, in the caves and we were dodging wild animals, right? We had to be on alert. And so our negativity response, obviously, we have a negative bias. So it takes 3, okay, positive type experiences to wipe out one negative one. Why? Because our negative bias is already ingrained in our subconscious. Our subconscious is called our primal brain. It is the oldest part of our brain. This part, okay, our prefrontal cortex is where we have logic. Well, how old do you think that is? Yeah, it's not as old, again, as the subconscious. So 97% of everything that we as humans either think or participate, whatever task we're performing, it's automatic. It literally is automated. So okay, so you, again, first core muscle to strengthen in mental fitness so that you can even figure out you have judge, right? Is recognizing there's a saboteur talking to you. The second core muscle is then to say, oh, I need to turn to sage. I need to actually now recognize that there's a saboteur response coming. And now I want to fall into sage, okay? Or stop thinking in saboteur mode and go into sage. And then the third, okay, core muscle to mental fitness is to then actually choose the sage response, right? Like take command, i.e., self-command. Take self-command and use sage action, right? So, and action happens to be one of the sage powers, but there's a three core muscles that you're working. One, even recognizing that there is a saboteur talking to you. Two, turn your saboteur into sage, okay, response, and then take action, i.e., move into self-command so that you can take yourself out of, again, the saboteur response. That doesn't always happen very quickly, and that's okay. And the beautiful part of that is that even when you don't come out of the saboteur energy quickly enough to not have because let's face it, you're gonna uh, revert to what is easiest, which is the negativity. So how loud is your judge? The louder your judge, the harder, right, it is to probably get into sage. And that makes sense. But with more practice, what will happen is those three muscles, okay? Usually what happens is that your saboteurs, you can start noticing them faster. That doesn't mean they're not going to come and that they're not going to take over, but it also means that you have recognized it, and that is huge. Just the notion that you can now figure out that it's not your logical brain talking, i.e., it's not your sage, your different five powers talking to you. It is a saboteur talking to you is a big, big win. And you get to celebrate. You're like, yeah, I just heard my judge. So how loud is the judge talking to you? My judge happens to be very subtle, like very subtle. So subtle that it's probably talking to me 99% of the time in a negative way. And sometimes I hear it and sometimes I don't. And it's only when I have had some type of saboteur response that I then say, oh, wait, I just realized that's a saboteur talking. That's not my sage. All right. When the sages, I almost wish my saboteurs were less subtle because then I could probably pick it up. But instead, what happens now is I get to be very cognizant of how my saboteurs work, right? And then I use that to my advantage. So I know it's going to be sneaky when the judge is coming at me. When the judge is talking, then I'm like, oh, I pause because I've heard something that doesn't sound too sage, and I know that something is up, right? So again, even when you still take a saboteur response, the fact that you even knew that you were in saboteur is a big deal. So yeah, you still might cuss out, unfortunately, whomever it is, or you may unfortunately send an email that you probably should have waited a good hour on. And you can then use sage to forgive yourself and then to do better next time. One of the neat aspects of using the positive intelligence PQ model, positive quotient model, is that you become much more gratuitous and graceful, or gracious, I should say, with yourself. And that alone is worth all the time, okay, going through what is a actually like an 8-week program. But when you're learning the mental fitness that comes with the Positive Intelligence mental fitness program, what happens is that this is something that will be improved upon daily. It's something that will inspire you to start using daily. Why? Because when we are in our saboteur response, a lot less gets done. And there is proof. When we're in sage, which we all know as flow, when you're in a ease and flow state, and you hear about it, like, elite athletes say, I was in the flow, right? And I just kept hitting those 3 free throws, or my swimming was completely on point, and I, broke my own record by like 2 seconds, whatever the case is, right? They're in flow. They are performing at such a high level because they're not in any way, shape, or form thinking about anything other than what they're focused on. And they're not resisting, right? They are in complete ease and flow. We as humans get into that state again when we're actually in sage response versus, again, our saboteurs. So our saboteurs are working off of what we know as our I say this so weird. We're working off of the fight or flight, okay, part of our nervous system. And the whole system is called the autonomic nervous system. And the fight or flight is one version of it. And then we have our rest and digest. We have a sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight version. I was trying to get the word right. Sympathetic. And then we have the parasympathetic. So our sympathetic nervous system is where our saboteurs thrive. Okay. Again, we're meant to stay alive, right? Our brain is only trying to keep us alive. So the saboteurs, that's what they're best at. And sometimes it's to our detriment, quite literally, because again, we had these saboteurs develop as we were young, okay, as we were growing. And so now that we have the filters available in our own minds, we don't need those saboteurs anymore, but they're very, very much part of our subconscious. So we get to work at turning those off, okay, and then turning it into sage. So you can imagine, again, you're working very much to listen less or to turn on the sympathetic nervous system. All right. Yes, it's always technically on alert, but we shouldn't have it all alert all the time, right? It shouldn't be on high alert, I should say. So we want to tone down the sympathetic nervous system. And then we want to then flow into our sage response, right? We want to go into the parasympathetic nervous system response. And using the words of saboteur and sage is probably just easier overall, but we want to respond as much as possible in sage. Why? Because our sage response then flows to whomever we're engaging with. And that's very important because when you're sending out a negative saboteur energy, you're going to get it right back at you. And the same happens if you're sending sage energy out, it will come back to you. And you probably will have a better outcome because of sage energy. And so the question we started with, again, the title of this video is, how loud is your judge? Well, I wonder, do you even know you have a judge, correct? So if you don't even know the voices there and you can't hear the voices, then it's not going to matter because you're going to keep feeding off of that negative energy. So the sooner that you can learn how to build your mental fitness, the sooner you will hear how loud your judge is. Okay. So, with that, understand again that we all have both saboteurs and sage, and it's up to us how we use it. There is the argument, oh, well, my saboteurs have kept me alive this long. Well, but at what price? I can assure you, as someone I was diagnosed with general anxiety disorder. And once I was, diagnosed, it kind of actually made sense, only because my whole life I had been so high strung and very nervous and so forth and so on. So, not that I am a label, but finding out that there was at least something that I could then turn a sage response onto. Yes, I was given this diagnosis, but it's not who I am. It's just what happens sometimes, right? So I am in this uh, journey to work on my sage so that when I'm faced with a situation, I can, instead of thinking of all the negative bias, I can decide how can the situation become a gift and or an opportunity. That's as simple as it gets. Your mental fitness is simply the ability to see any situation, any circumstance, and ask yourself, how can I look at this with sage energy and then use it to turn it into a gift or an opportunity? Pretty cool, huh? So, with that, how loud is your judge? And if you want to learn how to hear less of the judge and more of your sage, I am the right person for you. And we can talk more about that offline. So drop in the comments, sage, and I'll be happy to connect with you, or, connect with me. In the description, I always have a link to my calendar, and you can sign up at a time that works for you. With that, everyone stay safe, and we'll talk again. Take care, take charge. God bless.